Hey, what's going on? It's Inventor here, with my Thorns Barbarian in Diablo 4, Season 11. I cleared Pit 55 to unlock Torment 4, so I wanted to share my build with you in case anyone was struggling to reach the endgame with the Thorns Barbarian. Note that I did my level 1 to Torment 4 run on the PTR, so there may be differences between now and when the season goes live, but this video should give you a general guideline for this build. In this build guide, I'm going to cover my character, abilities, progression, and other relevant information. So first, I'll talk about my gear. Gear. There are many changes coming to the game this season. One such change is that all items can now have only one temper. So I prefer ranks of Belligerence for my weapons, Wrath of the Berserker cooldown reduction for my rings, and Thorns while fortified for any available utility slots, including my gloves, boots, and amulet. Regarding affixes on my gear, I want max life and strength the most, preferably as greater affixes. Max life boosts how much thorns I receive from challenging shout, while strength boosts all of my damage. To help solve my survivability problems, I value life on hit and healing received, since these work very well with my thorns hits. Then I would prioritize armor and resistances. For each weapon, the weapon temper is belligerence for more damage if I use a basic attack. My aspects are Vehement Brawler on my two-handed mace for more ranks on my ultimate, and a multiplicative bonus damage upon using it. Death Wish on my two-handed polearm for more thorns when I become berserking. Aspect of Elemental Fate on my one-hander to get more damage from time to time, but there are other options like the Mythic Unique Doombringer. My other one-hander is the unique sword The Third Blade, which turns my weapon masteries, in this case Steel Grasp, into a core skill that uses Fury instead of cooldowns. My helm is Crown of Lucian from Duriel for a large damage increase and to make my key passive easier to activate when I use Steel Grasp. My chest armor is Razor Plate from Lord Zir to get thorns and for its unique effect. My gloves are Inner Calm with resistances, so this gives me damage straight up, but if I'm standing still for 3 seconds, this bonus will triple. My pants are Temerity from Lord Zir. Temerity is the key to staying alive on this build, since life on hit and other healing sources become a massive barrier from Temerity that scales with maximum life. So in this case, I'm sitting on base amount of health of 11,348, and the barrier is about 94% of that. My boots are Hectic Aspect with all resistances, and ranks the Warcry as its greater affix. My amulet is Needle Flare for AoE Thorns. My conceited aspect is on my first ring, so this gives me more damage when I have barrier. Because I have Temerity and the skill Iron Skin, I pretty much always have barrier, and so this 15% multiplicative damage boost, which could go all the way up to 30, is perpetually active. My second ring is Bold Chieftains for cooldown reduction on my shouts. This aspect is super important because it helps me keep challenging shout and warcry going indefinitely. In my sockets, I prefer sapphires in my one-handers for vulnerable damage with rubies in my helm for strength. I put diamonds in my jewelry sockets for more resistances. When it comes to rune words, I put Kur Zal into my two-handed mace to gain 20% more life when using 5 skills. On my two-handed polearm, I ran Pock Lum to refund Fury when using Steel Grasp. As for consumables, for my elixirs and incense, I use life, stats, armor, and resistances. Max life is important to get more thorns from challenging shout. So you can see here, my thorns is all the way up to 11.2k, while my challenging shout is active, since it scales off of my max life. And all stats helps boost my strength for more damage, while soothing spices will give me resistance to all elements and armor, helping keep me alive even as I approach Torment 4. Divine Gift. For my purified slots, I run Lies to get Fortify, Screams for Resistance, Sin for Armor, and Pain for Barrier. For my corrupted slots, I don't run Essence of Shadows so that Belial does not slow down my pit runs. But I do run Anguish, Hellfire, and Squalor for extra rewards in the Undercity, World Bosses, and Hell Tides, respectively. Skills. Now, I'm not going to go over every individual point that I allocated into my skill tree, but what I can say is that I picked up a lot of passive modifiers that gave me either thorns or damage, and my key passive was Barbed Carapace. Barbed Carapace gives me thorns up to 120% for every batch of fury that I spend. And if I use a skill with a cooldown, I am given unhindered, and I do a percentage of my thorns to close enemies every second. On my skill bar, I run Steel Grasp, Flay, Wrath of the Berserker, Iron Skin, Challenging Shout, and Warcry. For my skills, I start with Steel Grasp to apply Vulnerable and to allow me to group up big packs of monsters. Also, because of the third blade, Steel Grasp now uses Fury instead of cooldowns, which causes me to get more thorns from my key passive whenever I use this skill. Next comes Flay. I use this mainly to generate Fury and trigger the Belligerence passive for more damage. So first I Steel Grasp, but then I use Flay. Wrath of the Berserker helps me pull in monsters, gives me berserking with more damage, and makes me unstoppable. I use this if I'm CC'd or about to try clearing a pack. I have Iron Skin to provide a barrier, heal, and more life. All three help keep me alive, and more life gives extra thorns through Challenging Shout. Challenging Shout gives damage reduction, max life, and thorns equal to a percentage of my max life. So here, if I use Challenging Shout, my life goes up by 20%, and my thorns more than doubles. Warcry gives me berserking and significantly more damage, but because I run the Martial Glyph, this skill, along with Challenging Shout, help lower my cooldowns. When fighting bosses, I prefer to stand still while spamming Flay and Steel Grasp, but I also activate a cooldown every 5 seconds or so to trigger Barbed Carapace. As with past seasons, some bosses are not as bad to deal with. For example, Seething Hive Master spawns monsters and uses attacks that procs thorns multiple times, but Mother's Judgment is an awful matchup since it attacks very slowly. So putting this all together, While standing still, I prefer to use Steel Grasp, then Flay, then Wrath of the Berserker, Iron Skin, Challenging Shout, and lastly Warcry. For my expertise, I run a two-handed polearm for 15% bonus damage while healthy, and my weapon technique is the two-handed axe for 10% bonus damage on enemies that are vulnerable. Paragon. When I started Pit 55, I used 200 Paragon points. I had the starting board with Challenger Glyph, Weapons Master with Revenge Glyph, Blood Rage with Martial Glyph, Decimator with Executioner Glyph, and Carnage with Might Glyph. My only legendary glyph at the time was Executioner at rank 46 for its legendary bonus. The other glyphs were Challenger, Revenge, Might, and Martial, each one at rank 15 or higher for the radius increase. All of my glyphs had their additional bonus active. Mercenaries. For my mercenaries, I have Subo as my hired mercenary to reveal the locations of all nearby monsters with his secret perk. He also sometimes drops me healing potions and can occasionally reduce my active cooldowns. My reinforcement is Varyana, and she uses Bloodthirst to give me a bit more attack speed when I use the skill Warcry. Progression. From level 1 to 60, on any new character, start the seasonal questline first at Kiovashad to access the Reputation board and the Divine Gifts tab. This season, bosses seem to give a lot more XP than before, so running Azmodan at the world boss areas can be a great source of levels. That aside, the fastest way to go from 1 to 60 by yourself would probably be by running through the Vessel of Hatred campaign. The more common method to level, though, is by running Hell Tides and Strongholds. XP rewards from Renown don't exist anymore. While leveling, you should boost up your damage by tempering Thorns from the Natural Schemes recipe on all of your armor slots. You can also use the Iron Barb's elixir to increase your Thorns substantially too. Upon reaching level 60, gear yourself up with equipment around 750 item power, using sources like the Den and the bartering system, so you can attempt Pit 10 to unlock Torment 1. From Torment 1 to 4, note that similar to when progressing from 1 to 60, running bosses like Azmodan will give you large amounts of XP. Redeem caches from the Reputation board, Season Journey, and report as you get them to progress more quickly. In Torment 1, the minimum level of power I would recommend before attempting Torment 2 would be to have all 750 item power equipment with most of the required aspects and tempers, 50 Paragon points, which would essentially be the Weapons Master Legendary node and Challenger Glyph, all skill points unlocked from Season Journey, all Divine Gifts unlocked. Here you can use Obols to roll a chest armor for a Razor Plate if you want, but since Lord Zir mats are easy to get, I prefer saving Obols until I want to pick up any missing uniques later. If you are at a loss for what to do first, run Hell Tides and Whispers first to gear up, gain XP, get tempering recipes, and farm boss mats. Then unlock skill points by progressing through the Season Journey, and Divine Gifts by doing the corresponding activities. That should allow you to reach Torment 2. In Torment 2, the minimum level of power I would recommend before attempting Torment 3 would be to have all ancestral legendaries for equipment with all required aspects and tempers, 1 or 2 unique items, 150 Paragon points, which is essentially all 4 legendary nodes, and some Paragon point rewards from the season journey. If you are looking for equipment upgrades, you can do various activities, but as with Torment 1, Helltides and Whispers are a pretty safe bet. Also, you should try running bosses for both Paragon levels and to get uniques with the boss mats you have. If you are struggling in Torment 2, you can tone it down to Torment 1. Paragon point rewards from the season journey speaks for itself. All this together should open up Torment 3. In Torment 3, the minimum level of power I would recommend before attempting Torment 4 would be to have all required uniques, the socketables for your gems and runes, 200 Paragon points, which comes out to having all 4 legendary nodes and all 5 glyphs at rank 15 or higher, and all Paragon point rewards should be unlocked from the season journey. If you haven't done so yet, max out expertise on both two-handed axe and two-handed polearm for more damage. With good gear, a filled out Paragon board, and the right expertise, it's time to clear Pit 55 and unlock Torment 4. Alright, so that covers it for my build guide on the Thorns Barbarian in Season 11. In a season where survivability might be a big issue, this build should allow you to survive pretty much everything up to Torment 4. It also remains a solid choice for clearing large packs of monsters at once. I hope this helps. If you made it this far, then a like, comment, or a subscribe is always appreciated. But otherwise, that's all for me. Thanks everyone for watching, and venture out.